Okay, we are back with people sharing their stories of revenge that have gone wrong. An affair to remember. A married family coworker I was sleeping with accused me of violating and harassing her when she thought her husband might find out about our affair. We had been friends for over a year before the affair started, and I thought I knew her pretty well. There wasn't anything over the course of our friendship that led to believe that she would accuse me of that. In response, I had the letters and pictures she had been sending me anonymously. I can't talk. Had a long day and got a headache, and I can't talk now. In response, I had the letters and pictures she had been sending me anonymously sent to her husband. She ended up getting fired, and her husband tried to take her 2 kids away. He literally showed up at workplace, threw the pictures and letters in her face, and dragged their kids away crying. He was estranged from her family, living far away from where she grew up, and her husband and kids were basically all she had. Seeing the terrified look on her kids' faces made me think maybe I went too far. I was sent home for a few days, but did keep my job. I never saw her again after that. I heard from friends hers that hers that she did manage to spin the situation enough to keep her kids, but beyond that, I'm not 100% sure how everything went with her. That was definitely enough to scare me, first to never sleep with another coworker, and second to stay away from married women. You should have stayed away from married women in the first place. But you know what? When she's going to accuse you of sexual assault, that's a drastic thing. You should never ever accuse anyone of sexual harassment, sexual assault, or rape. That is something you should never ever accuse them of. Because even if it's found out to be false, that shit still sticks with them forever. It never ever goes away. That ruins their life. Actually, one of my favorite bands that I always listen to, one of the artists, he was accused of rape. It never went to court though, because the girl later on admitted that she lied to everyone. And the cops found no proof, and she even told the police that she lied. Her father ended up busting her ass repeatedly so hard they sent her into foster care because of it. They took her away because her ass, I guess he busted it so red or whatever, or left a bruise or something, and they took her away because he was so pissed, telling her that because of her lie she just ruined that man's life, which she did. It was so bad in certain places that he was supposed to set on to go on to tour. The fights and the rallies and the riots from it or whatever were so bad that he had to actually canceling visiting there just because of those false accusations that has followed him through everything. Thousands and thousands of people have accused him, and still they haven't accused him of it, but they still pull it out and remind him or call him a rapist or whatever, or saying he sexually assaulted or harassed a child when it never even happened. And it's just not fair. He thought it would just create a lot of annoying noise. When I first became an electrician, an older journeyman decided to teach me not to leave my stuff laying around by taking 50 plus small zip ties and encased my lemons pliers. He was also trying to tell me I needed to buy some diagonal cutters. A tin knocker saw all of this go down and quietly gave me a very long, heavy-duty zip tie and suggested I put it on his truck's driver shaft so he'd spend time looking for the noise. The older journeyman didn't show up for 2 days after I put the zip tie on because his truck broke down on the way home. Apparently, the zip tie got hung up and his drive shaft transmission yoke pillow block differential yoke all got destroyed, which also took out the exhaust system just after the headers, and it managed to crack the fiberglass dually fender on the passenger side. He ended up buying a new truck shortly after that, and I never told him about the zip tie. It's kind of an asshole move to zip tie that, but you know what? It's an asshole move to also zip tie pliers, but you only thought it would make a sound. You didn't think it would destroy the whole car. So it's not fully your fault, but you still shouldn't have doing that. That's just something you don't mess with. You don't mess with cars. He had to have known this would happen. There was a girl on the bus. We'll call her ZB. She was not a nice person. She played truant all the time, and her dad and friends. Her dad was friends with the head of our school, so she got off scot-free. She made fun of other kids, kept one guy on the ropes, and then webcammed herself getting intimate with her boyfriend to him. Wait, what? Kept one guy on the ropes and then webcammed herself getting intimate with her boyfriend to him. So she webcammed it basically and pretty much showed, like, she did live video chat, or she recorded it and sent it to the guy that she was flirting with. It's an asshole move. She was just a dumb, mean witch in general. One day I was talking to my friends and made a silly joke about something sensual, and she just chimed in with an awful comment about me being out of my depth and cackled at my then teenage lack of a girlfriend. Just standard rude stuff. She did this twice more over the week. I was going through a depressive phase at the time, so I just felt down about it. Then a few months later, a friend told me she had got an abortion over the summer. At first, I was just bemused. Then I realized what this meant, so I added her on MySpace as a stupid pop socket came off as a generic hot guy and commented how cute she was. She instantly added me naturally, so he catfished her basically. And if those of you don't know what catfish is, basically you make a fake Facebook, you make a fake profile or whatever, and you hit on them and try and get them and string them along. After a few days of playing charmer, I then proceeded to send her random pictures of aborted fetuses and damaged uteruses for about a week. She quit school at the end of that term and left for good. That's really harsh to do, but what she does is really harsh too. You shouldn't bully people and harass people, because it's going to come back to bite you in the ass some way at some point. Sorry, I'm playing with a pencil. Don't mess with this chef. For the love of God, people. Do not piss off the people that are cooking your food. Just don't do it. You don't want to do that. They'll spit in your food or something. Don't piss off people that are cooking your food. I was a chief for a famous all-inclusive hotel chain. One day I was approached in the kitchen and told I needed to pack my bags and move 3,000 miles away to fix a labor issue at another hotel. I happily obliged, but negotiated a deal where I would have my choice of any hotel location after I successfully fixed the labor issue. I arrived at the new hotel and proceeded to diligently address the labor problem, while also taking over dinner services for 750 people. It's a lot. After a few months, the labor issue had been fixed and settled, and the kitchen was running as smoothly as I liked. I asked my manager about when I could make the move to another hotel per our arrangement, and I was told since I had done such a good job, they were going to make me stay there while I was for an indeterminate amount of time, i.e. forever. Sorry, my head is itching from my pigtails being up. I let my management know this was unacceptable, and I demanded I be transferred in accordance with the original agreement that got me on a plan in the first place. I was told they would work on it. I gave them a 3-week window to address the issue, to give them time to discuss it with the head office, etc. I told them if they did not come through in 3 weeks, I would walk off the job and never look back. After 3 quiet weeks, I politely asked my manager if my transfer had come through or at least was still in the works. It was not. The next morning, I gave the entire dinner staff the day off and told them not to answer any work calls. I set up the kitchen as if I were preparing dinner onions and herbs in hotel pans full of water with foil covers, garlic sizzling in pans, etc. I kept the charade up until around 4:30 p.m., at which time I left the kitchen, went to my room, picked up my bags, and went to the lobby to wait for my ride. The manager came out freaked. There were 750 prepaid dinner reservations that night and no food, and told me if I walked out, I would never work for the company again. I laughed, shook his hand, and said, "Goodbye," and never looked back and never talked to anyone there ever again. That's just me. When you have something that was agreed upon like this, you should keep it. Why don't you join your mom? That sounds mean. That sounds mean already. In middle school, my good friend's mom died. We lived in a very religious town, and her family was not particularly religious. A few weeks after the funeral, my friend started acting strangely towards me. She would call me a witch when she walked past me in the hallway at school. She'd give me the finger, and she started turning everyone against me. Well, I can understand if you're just ignoring them because you're having a hard time after your family dies or something like that. But to act like that is ridiculous. I had no clue why. One day my best friend and I were walking home after school, and this friend almost hit me with her bike. Started calling me names and swore at me. Before I could even think, I blurted out, "Why don't you go join your mom in the afterlife?" As soon as I said that, I regretted it. I got beat up at school the next day. Years later in high school, I had the opportunity to apologize to her, and she accepted. I really shouldn't have said that. I still feel bad more than 20 years later. No, you shouldn't have said that, but she shouldn't have been such a bitch to you. But you should have found a better way to handle that than to say that to her. I couldn't say that to somebody. Not with a conscience, a good conscience. I had a girlfriend, okay, this one's called is the hindsight, it wasn't such a great idea. I had a girlfriend cheat on me, lie about it when I confronted her and gave her the chance to come clean and work through it, and stalk me after I broke up with her. We were quite young, so it was all very overdramatic. But I did love her a lot and was hurt by what she did. At the same time, I was very done and not interested in reconciling. Reconciling. She didn't get the hint. I asked her nicely many times, then not so nicely, then demanded she get lost. She would for a while, but then she'd show up, try to pick fights, insult me, and be hurtful. So she stalked you and everything. That's horrible. I eventually had enough. I told a couple of choice people in her school, different to mine, what she'd done with gory details. She'd sucked off her ex in his car. I thought she'd get dragged for it and that would be that. Turns out she was awful in all other aspects of her life too. Apparently she was loathed at school and people jumped on this news like starving beasts on fresh meat. I had texts and IMs from people I didn't even know asking to confirm the news, which I ignored because I was really done with the whole situation by that point. I eventually heard from other friends at school that people had not let it drop and had even stuck posters around the school with pictures of her announcing what she'd done, offering her services with her phone number and photoshopping bananas into her mouth. It was brutal and she had to change schools in her final year. I did feel a bit bad. If I'd known it would go that far, I might have rethought telling those people. At the time, she hurt me badly. She refused to leave me alone despite months of chances, and the other students reacted so viciously because apparently she was a total jerk to everyone in the school. I sure didn't expect that, though. This is why you don't be mean to people in school, but to be honest, you shouldn't have handled it that way. You probably should have just called the police if she was stalking you and harassing you like that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if someone is repeatedly messaging you with any form of a message of whether they're yelling at you, getting an attitude with you, or being creepy or perverted or whatever it may be, if you tell them to leave you alone, once or even twice if you want to be nice, and they keep messaging you repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, then it's considered a form of actual harassment. And it's creepy and it's against the law. It's just horrible. You don't ever need, like, you just don't do that. It's all fun and games until there's property damage. A coworker and I had a friendly prank war spanning 2 years. Close to the end of our war, he iced my car. Icing involves taking the hose to the parking lot every half hour and spraying a light mist over your victim's car when it's below 0 out. I finished my 12-hour shift to find a car encased in 2 inches of ice. I thought my revenge was both more inconvenient for him and less freezing my balls off for me. I decided to take a bed sheet, drape it over his car, and only took 4 hours to strip. It only took 4 or 5 trips out with the hose the next night. The next morning, he found his car with a 1/4 inch of ice freezing a sheet to its car. When he started peeling off the sheet, he pulled his windshield wipers, arms and all, off of his ratty Jeep. I received a very angry phone call. I felt bad. The unwritten rule was embarrassing or inconvenient, but no damage. I paid for repairs and he got his revenge. He planted a dozen pieces of smoked herring throughout my car. It took me 6 months to find the last piece hidden under the carpet in the back window of my car. I can still smell it. Sounds kind of funny, but you know what? He froze your car in inches of ice. He should have expected you were going to be an asshole and do the same thing to his car of some sort. Because that's just mean, especially when it's like below 0 out and you're stuck at work and someone freezes your car door shut and you can't get in your car. That's a way to freeze your ass off, waste your time, and then you got to find another ride home from work, or you got to figure how the fuck you chiseled your car out of that block of ice. So hopefully your guys' days are going better than these people's. And maybe this will make you plan a better revenge than what they did. But I wish you all luck. Be nice to each other. Keep your pets on leashes. Don't lose your animals. And be good.